Life in 15 minutes. This is where we're going to be doing 5-minute exercises, one each for the mind, the body, and the soul. And for the mind, what we're going to be doing is basically, I wrote a book. It's called Your Body, the Perfect House, How to Find Your True Purpose and also live a balanced life. So we're going to be reading over that and just kind of have a discussion on how that's going to help you as basically a guide to help you address all the areas of your life. So that's your physical area, your financial area, your spiritual, your emotional, and then also your relationships. And how this book came about, I always kind of like to review these for those of you. By the way, welcome and thank you for watching this broadcast. But I like to start off with talking about how the book came about, just in case if I have like a new viewers, and then plus, repetition is the key. And I kind of want to drive the point home because a lot of times when people are saying stuff to you, you hear them and it may make an impression on you. But it's with the repetition and then you really start to listen and hear what's going on. So I want to know, like, did this happen to you? Like, did you have this experience or do you still have this experience? So growing up, I used to always feel or notice that when my house was clean, I felt that my life was in order. Like things were going around, going along, and I was happy, and things were, pretty much going right in life. And then I found that if my house was a mess or not clean, or even a disaster area, not that it's going to be totally disastrous, but what I mean, like just unclean and unkept, I felt the same way as my life. Like my life just seemed like nothing was going on. And I just kind of start noticing this. I would say it was like probably like within my early 20s or like, yeah, I would say like late to early 20s where I started noticing this. And so I used to always just try to keep my house clean because obviously I wanted my life to be going well, be going along. So do you feel the same way? Like some people do this. I've heard that some people do this with your car, or just any other spaces that you occupy. You find that if your space that you spend your time in is organized, then you find that your life is organized. So that's the premise of my book or how it came about. Now I wrote this book 3 years ago. Again, this was an inspiration and it still has not been published yet. I'm actually now currently working with a publisher. I know you're probably asking like, what's taking you so long and all this, but it's like anything else. Like if you think of like a lot of the books that's, been written, I don't know if you know the history of them because I'm thinking about one in particular. The manuscript sat around and it wasn't published till the guy was dead. Not that was my intention. Not at all. It just, life happened, a lot of times you want to write a book and then you write a book and then once you write it, then you just kind of sit on it for, I don't know, maybe it's fear, maybe, and that's probably a lot of underlining it was the fear. But, in retrospect, everything happens for a reason because where I am in life right now, this is the perfect opportunity for this book to come out because I think at the time when I wrote it, I really didn't understand the ramification of the book. I understand conceptually because, again, I told you throughout my whole 20s, and the rest of my life, I kind of lived this where if my house was in order, my life was in order. But when I wrote this book and I actually really started to address those different areas, I needed more work on myself in order to bring this about. So again, everything happens for a reason, and I truly believe that. But anyway, so I use the house as an analogy, and obviously there's different rooms in the house. So you have like the living room, and for me, the living room was like my financial area. So, and it's funny because if I think about how I used to have my living room used to be in such a way that I used to have like a formal living room. Okay, and by formal, don't go away. Formal, what I meant was, back in the old days where they used to have like a formal living room where you basically never went in there. Like a special company came, you would sit in the living room on the sofa. But other than that, you don't really use your living room. You may use like another area. So I used to have like a formal living room. And that's how that honestly was how I actually approached my finances as well. It was like formally, like I had budgets and had, strict and, it wasn't an enjoyable place. In other words, it was something that was formal. And so in the book, that's why I chose the living room as the financial. And then for me, and probably for you as well, the kitchen was the physical, right? So, and that makes sense, right? Because that's where you store all your food and you get your nutrition and everything like that. So that was your nutrition. And I spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and my kitchen was clean. Like, I used to keep, don't get me, don't get it wrong. It's not like it was clean all the time, but you know what I'm saying? Like for the most part, it was clean. And for me, the kitchen was where I spent a lot of time. And even growing up for me, I started in fitness when I was 3 years old. I mean, I remember my earliest fitness being at 3 years old. And so I pretty much my whole life has grown up with fitness. And that's why it's such a passion of mine. By the way, did I get a chance to introduce myself? I just started talking. My name is Pia McAdams, and I am an author. I'm also an accounting professor, and I'm a certified life coach. I specialize in personal and small business finance, and then also fitness. I help people reach their goals, and this is the capacity I bring to you with this challenge. And so right now I'm talking about the house and how it relates to cleaning up your house, finding your true purpose, and therefore living a balanced life. So again, I spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and that's the same thing with my life. I remember my first, my early recognition or first memory of working out was when I was 3 years old. And so that carried on with me my whole life. And so my kitchen was like a very important place in life. Now, not for me, meaning I love to cook. That's not it at all. If you know me, that's far be it from the truth. Not that I don't hate to cook. It's just that it's just something I do because you need to live. Is my cooking is like very I'm not gonna say it's primitive. That's not what I mean. But like in other words, I like I'm very simplistic in the way that I eat. Like for me, it could just be something simple as a salmon and some asparagus. I don't have to have all the dressings. Like even for Thanksgiving, nowadays you have all the mashed potatoes and the collard greens and the cornbread. The whole feast that you have for Thanksgiving. Well, for me, honestly, I literally could just have salmon and asparagus or something really simple like that. All right, so moving back along into the house. Now, my absolute favorite room of the house is my office. And by the way, this is my office. And so for the office, this is indicative of your spirituality. And for me, again, this is my very favorite place to be. And so in my life, and I noticed that in working upon myself and transforming myself, I find that if I work spiritually, that's the best place to start for me. All right, so then we have two bathrooms. We have the left brain and the right brain, and this is indicative of your emotional area. So what do you feel emotional in life? And I will say that my favorite room in my house, my favorite place to clean up are the bathrooms. Like I love cleaning out bathrooms. Yes, me. Like for me, when I'm cleaning out the toilet, I put my hand in a bowl. I'm not, I can wear gloves, but honestly, I don't have to. I like to put my hand in the bowl and just get the dirt and grime and just fill it out, and clean it out, I should say. But it's my favorite room to clean up. And so in life, I was trying to figure out, well, how does that work with me in the room as far as like your left brain and right brain is your emotional. But for me, it was actually the opposite. For a long time, I really wasn't in tune with my true emotions. And that's from being like a left brain type of person, because I am a typically left brain person. I fortunately have the ability to tap into my right brain. And in case you're not familiar with the left brain and right brain, again, I go into more detail in the room, and once we get to those areas, I'll talk a little more about it. But for the sake of what I'm talking about now, your left brain is your logical brain, and your right brain is your creative brain. So I have access to tap into both of them because I'm very logical, but I'm also very creative. Well, a lot of times most people do one or the other. So when I say it's my favorite place to clean, it makes sense that, I do have both. I'm able to tap into both areas where most people just spend the majority of the time into one. Okay, so then we also have the two bedrooms, and this is the relationships and the relationship that you have with yourself, and then you have the relationship with your others. And when I say yourself, I also include your spouse, because if you are married, because at one point I was married, I'm divorced now, but at one point I was married, then you kind of look at yourself as you and your partner. In other words, the decision that you make for yourself includes the decisions with your partner. In other words, if you want to stay married, you want to make sure that you're both in alignment with those decisions. So the relationship with yourself and your spouse, I include those together, and also the relationship with others. Okay, so that's those are what we're talking about as far as the house is concerned. All right, so moving right along, before we come back to the house, I just want to briefly talk about the body portion. So for the body portion, what we're going to be doing is a 5-minute yoga exercise. And this is a way, because again, the purpose of this transformation, I mean, obviously it says transfer your life in 15 minutes. So you say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're doing that by working on doing 5-minute exercises on every single part of our whole. And there's 3 parts to our whole. We're all made up of mind, body, and soul. And so we're doing 5-minute exercise to work on all 3 of those parts. In other words, we're going to affect the transformation. The change is going to affect the whole. where a lot of us, we tend to work on just one part, and namely our body, because we look on we see ourselves on the outside. And this is where we go past the mirror. We're making judgments about what we physically see about ourselves. We can say, oh my God, there's wrinkles in my eyes, or I don't like my complexion or my cheeks, or there's wrinkles. We're very critical of ourselves. And so then we take actions to affect the change on the outside. Okay. But like my book, because remember, I'm using the analogy of your house, your body and a house. The same thing is what happens if you paint the outside of your house, but your inside is a disaster area. Well, yeah, on the outside, people will come by and make comments about, oh, how beautiful your house looks. Like, I love the landscaping. I love the color and this, that, and the other. But because you as a person live on the inside of your house, if your inside is not clean, you're not going to be happy. So you may look great physically on the outside because you worked on it, or maybe you didn't. It's just natural, right? But a lot of times you work on that, because I just mentioned about making critical judgments about yourself. So you try to go about and fix those judgments. But if on the inside where you live is a disaster area, you're not happy. Okay. And that's where the disconnect comes from. And that's what I noticed in my coaching over the years when I'm actually coaching clients. I've noticed that I would help them reach their goals, physical goals, and also financial goals. I would help in other goals as well, but those are the main ones that I focus on. And I noticed that for a lot of people, not all, but for a lot of people, they would actually reach their goals, but they wouldn't be happy. Like it's as if they didn't even realize, it was as if they didn't even see that they reached their goal. And particularly the physical goals, like those you can actually see, like it's a dramatic change, right? If you go from, let's say, 250 pounds down to 180 pounds, that's a dramatic change. That's a transformation. And that's something that you can physically see, because again, you're not only physically see when you're putting on your clothes, you can't wear the same clothes that you normally wear. There's certain things that certain chairs that you couldn't fit in, or that you were snug in, and all of a sudden you can fit in. So those are drastic changes that you can that you're aware of, right? But people still weren't happy with it, and I just didn't understand why. And it was more so, like I said, over time frame, it evolved their self-image and where they saw themselves in their minds. And I talked about this in the last transformation when we read the book, The Psycho-Cybernetics, by the great Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And he talks about how as a little child, around about the age of 3 or 4, sometimes 5, there's something that happened in our life, something that was, it doesn't necessarily have to be traumatic, but a lot of times it was. But there was something significant that happened in our life that pretty much formed the foundation of our self-image and how we saw ourselves. And I will say that a lot of this has come from our parents, or not, I should say come from your parents, because that traumatic event doesn't necessarily have to involve your parents. But I'm saying a lot of what we formed as far as our beliefs and our habits come from our parents. But that traumatic event could either be from your parents, or like I say, it could be from anywhere. It could be from an uncle, it could be an abuse, it could have been something great. Whatever it is, something happened to you at an early age that had a dramatic effect on your self-image, and you carried the self-image. Starting with that foundation, you carried that from that point on. And then obviously as you're going through life, you started building upon more on that foundation, right? But once that foundation was laid, it's like set in stone, meaning that it formed that basis that was underlining. So no matter as you grow up and you're trying to change on the outside and trying to affect change, you're doing things, you're getting different beliefs, you're having different experiences. If that foundation is really set, particularly if it was something negative, okay? Now, obviously, if it's a great foundation, which, what consists of being great, that's subjective, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Once that foundation is laid, then that's going to be the basis of how you see yourself even later on. So using my example, if you were always overweight as a child, let's say that your parents were overweight, and so you didn't grow up with healthy food habits, and so you started off being overweight as a child. So as a child, later on, you had experiences of being overweight that really stuck with you. Maybe someone said something to you. Maybe your dad called you a fat little pig, and he called you piggy, and he meant it as a term of endearment. But for you internalizes that I'm a pig, I'm fat, which is not a good thing. He was used as a term of endearment, but you didn't understand that. And so you internalized that as something negative for you. And so then you grew up being a fat pig. So throughout life, and again, it's individualized, right? So throughout life, you grew up being an overweight child. And then when you got old enough to start really want to do something about it, like you just got sick of being overweight, you decided to take action and, let's say, hire a trainer, you go work out, you start eating right. You do all the things that we know we're supposed to do in order to live a healthy life. And so let's say that's where you introduce yourself to me and I became your trainer and I help you to lose the weight. I put you on a specific customized plan and you're able to lose that 100 pounds so that now you're a 180-pound person where you originally start off with over 200, pounds. But internally, you still saw yourself as that little fat little person or that fat person. And again, this is all subconscious. Now, consciously, you obviously see that you've lost weight and everyone's giving you compliments and you walk in the mirror. But you know what? For some of you, you still even look in the mirror and you still see areas that are fat on you. And if that is the case, it again is because it is your self-image. And a lot of times we don't think about that, right? Because that's subconscious. But that is actually what is happening to you. So I talk about all this because, again, if where you are in life, because we're talking about transformation here, and this is about eliciting change. When we're talking about change, we're not talking about just superficial change. We're not just talking about the external part of your body. We're talking about affecting the full change. And that means working from the inside as well as the outside. Because in the mind, body, soul, in that trilogy, right, 2/3 of it is located on the inside. Your body is the only thing that's physically on the outside. So you need to make sure that you're working on the inside as well. If you work on the inside, you can actually manifest a change on your outside. However, just because you change your outside does not manifest change on the inside. So it doesn't work that way. And so that's the purpose of what we're doing. Now, obviously, the third portion of it, which is the soul, this is where we're going to be doing some meditation. And there's different types of meditation. So the last month I did a meditation where it was basically getting in tune with your breathing. We used the Ujjayi breaths. This month I'm doing more of a guided meditation because and we will go back to different ones. Like I'm not going to do the whole month, one where I'll change it up. But the reason, let me explain to you about the meditation because this is kind of important to where we're going to be talking about today. Because I'm still in my book, and right now I'm on chapter 2, and chapter 2 is talking about the inside of the house, which is what I'm talking about now. Okay, so when we're talking about meditation, this is one area that is particularly new to me. When I say new, this is something that I've been praying, and I want you to understand like there's a difference between praying and meditation. Okay, when you're praying, you're actually asking for something. You're asking for something for your higher power. For me, that I worship God, so I'm asking for God. I'm asking for my desires. I'm asking for my wants. I'm expressing gratitude. I'm doing all of that in my prayer. But when I'm meditating, this is where you're actually listening. You're calming your mind, and there's no thought at all. Like you're trying to control your thoughts, because guess what? When you're trying to affect change, it actually involves your thoughts. And I know, because for me as well, because remember I told you I'm predominantly a logical person, and I'm also creative. So you can imagine my thoughts are crazy. And if you've been listening to me, you pretty much know how crazy I am. It might be certifiably, right? Because my brain is constantly working. There's all these thoughts that come into my mind. But it was only when I tapped into meditation and I started to take control of those thoughts, I really learned the power of your thoughts. And if you remember, and for those of you that were following me earlier on last month when we read that book, The Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell addressed those areas because he explained, that book was about explaining your mind and particularly your subconscious and how the effects of that. So that opened up a myriad of what I want to say, it opened up something for me where I wanted to do more research on the area. So I started to do some more research on the mind. And that's where I came up with, I don't know if I have it with me right here. Oh, I do. Of course I have it. So I came up with this, I came across, don't get it twisted. I don't want to take credit for this. And I came across this drawing, and this wasn't in Dr. Maxwell's book. So if you actually did follow me those 30 days where we read that book and you're looking for this picture in that book, it wasn't. I found this picture as a result of me doing additional research about the mind. And it says that, it's commonly known that what you visualize, you materialize. And I say it's commonly known because I'm assuming that it's commonly known, but I can't make that assumption. So in case you don't know this, what you visualize, anything that you can visualize, you can materialize. And I used to hear it all the time. And I'll be honest with you, I used to have a hard time with visualizing things. I just, like, for instance, say, okay, close your eyes and imagine this. Now, if they give me like some guided something, like let's say you say imagine a tree. Well, I've seen trees, so I can actually picture trees. But even in my imagination, my imagination was more like a superficial, where conceptually I know what a tree looks like. But if you ask me, am I really looking like at a picture of a tree? that it didn't happen for me like that. So I had a hard time, and as you can imagine, if you can't really visualize it, then you're not going to materialize it. Now, not that I'm saying I was trying to materialize a tree, but you get what I'm saying, right? Come on, guys, talk with me. Hi, Wayne. Thank you for joining me. All right. So what I'm saying is what you can visualize, and that involves having control of your mind. But a lot of times what we don't visualize, because remember I talked about that self-image. If you want to change that, because I don't think I said that, even though that self-image has been a concrete area of your life, there are ways that you can actually change that, but it's going to require a lot of work. And keep in mind, when we're talking about the subconscious, this is an area where we're not consciously aware of. This is a thing that's happening like in the background. Okay, so even though consciously you know that there's a subconscious and that there's a self-image and that you want to consciously work on it, when you actually try to get to the subconscious part, that involves a little bit more work and is a lot more difficult. Okay, so the reason why I'm talking about all this is because, one, in order to be able to tap into that subconscious, you have to visualize what your mind looks like. Okay, so when I ask you, like right now, to close your eyes and just to picture what does your mind look like, what is the image that appears for you? Okay, so I'm really asking you, like, seriously do this. Like, take a moment right now and just kind of close your eyes. And if I say picture your mind, what image comes up? And when I did this last month, a lot of people were let me know that a brain, like a picture of the brain comes up. Well, guess what? Your brain is your brain. Your brain is not your mind. So what I did last month was I actually gave you a visual picture of your mind. And this is a picture that I came up with. Now, I know it's backwards, but, you can still follow along with me. So once you notice that your mind consists of two parts, right? You have your conscious area, which is this top part right here. This is known as your thinking mind. So anything that you think, all those thoughts, those are conscious thoughts. These are coming up from here in this area here. Now, your subconscious mind, the one you hear me talk about a lot, is representative of this bottom portion down here. And this right here is known as your emotional mind. Okay, so I want you to know that your thinking mind and your emotional mind, what you think and how you feel about it, results in those habits and beliefs. And this is your body. Those habits and beliefs result into action or results or lack thereof. So remember I talked about your self-image, right? This little core right here is indicative of your self-image. And remember I talked about when you were 3 years old. Well, let's even go beyond or before 3 years old. When you were initially born, okay, you were born with just a subconscious mind. And this is everyone. Now remember, this is not mine. This is based upon research. This is knowledge. This is scientific, right? Everyone, when you're born, you were born with just a subconscious mind. And so when I was talking about your parents really affected, how your development, they really do affect your development because they're your environment. And obviously, if you weren't raised with your parents, come on, work with me, right? I'm not talking, this is more of a general conversation for the average person if you're raised with parents, right? If you're raised in an orphan or if you're raised with your aunts or whatever, then whatever your environment is, okay, work with me here. All right, so anyway, your parents, basically they instilled the things in you, all right? So these arrows are indicative of your environment. So this would be your parents, and then as you grow a little older, there's other things from the environment that affect you. But initially, without a subconscious mind, it's your parents that give you your beliefs, things that you have, that you believe on, on God, on religion, on money, on relationships, on anything. So your parents instill their beliefs into you, right? Because obviously, let's say for me, I mentioned that my dad was a Navy chaplain. So he was, and we grew up as Baptists. So instilled into me is I grew up as a Baptist because that's what I grew up at. That's where we went to church. We went to a Baptist church. So I grew up being a Baptist. For you, if you grew up in a Jewish family, then guess what? And not just because you grew up in a Jewish family or that you were Jewish, that doesn't mean anything because there are a lot of Jewish families that don't practice, the religion of the Judaism, right? So what I'm just saying is whatever your parents are, whatever beliefs that they have, they instilled upon you. And that's how you develop the subconscious, which again, this is the part where you don't have that rational thinking portion right now, the conscious level, you don't have that. You actually don't develop the rational portion until you're about 5 years old. It was about 5 or 6 years old. So that's why I said between the ages of 3 to 5, something occurred to you that really laid a foundation. Okay. And I'm not necessarily talking about these beliefs. I'm just saying something happened in your life that laid a foundation of the self-image. And so when I was talking about earlier about the self-image, that's this portion right here. This is like the foundation, right? And so you have that self-image. As you grow up, you may achieve some goals, but if you're not happy, if it's not in alignment with that self-image, you're not going to be happy. Now, moving right along, when I just now was talking about the meditation and the importance of meditation, I mentioned about your thoughts, okay, and how your thoughts play a huge, huge role on how you are. And it really affects your conscious and your subconscious, because remember, once you develop at around 5 or 6, when you develop the conscious mind, now those thoughts come in, and those thoughts are still feeding onto that self-image. Okay, so the third drawing that I want to share with you this morning is this one right here. I want you to note that when it comes to your mind, your top portion of your mind, your conscious thinking level, is like a drill sergeant. Okay, and what is the purpose of a drill sergeant? If you're not familiar with the military, it's okay, because you still just think about what is the purpose of a drill sergeant. Well, the purpose of a drill sergeant is to give orders. Same thing with your conscious thinking mind. The purpose is to give orders. Now, this bottom portion, the subconscious, this emotional mind, this is like the recruits. And what are the purpose of a recruit? Well, a drill sergeant is the leader of the recruits. So what is it that the recruits say to the drill sergeant? When an order is given, the recruits say, "Yes, drill sergeant." Well, guess what? This is a great analogy, because in your mind, your subconscious only knows the word yes. It does not know the word no. It only knows the word yes. So when I talk about the importance of having those positive thoughts, or I just said the importance of thoughts, obviously I'm saying it's important to have positive thoughts, because if you're thinking, like if you're walking by a mirror and you're saying, "Oh, I have wrinkles," or "Oh, I'm fat," or "Oh, I'm not worthy," or "Oh, anything," then that's bringing an order, because you're thinking it. And then your subconscious mind says, "Yes, you do have wrinkles, and wrinkles will appear. More wrinkles will appear. Yes, you are fat. You will continuously be fat." And remember, this is affecting your self-image, right? So your thoughts are very, very important. So don't go around thinking negative things, because if you think those negative thoughts, your recruit, your subconscious, is going to agree with those negative thoughts. They're going to agree with you. You're going to manifest those things, right? So use this knowledge to your advantage. Start taking control of those thoughts and think positive thoughts. I am a healthy person. Yes, you are a healthy person. I am debt-free. Yes, you are debt-free. This is some powerful stuff. And so when I talk about the meditation and getting in control of your thoughts, that is the purpose of meditation, is really to calm your mind and to clear those thoughts. And so when we get ready to do the meditation portion today, I explained to you that those thoughts are going to come into your mind. They do. It's the price of having a healthy mind, right? So those thoughts will come into your mind. But over time, as you start the practice of meditation, because all these things I'm talking about is a practice, not like a quick fix. It's not like all of a sudden you do this, that, and the other. You check off all 3 areas and there, darn, I'm done, I'm transformed. It doesn't work like this. Obviously, it's a whole process, right? And it's a continuous process. So, you're going to set your goals, but it's a continuous process. And once you reach the goals, you set other goals. We've talked about all this in the book. And even in my book, the great thing is, like I said, it was not an accident that it took me 3 years to reach this book, because as I'm going over and rereading my book, because again, I wrote it 3 years ago, as I'm reading it again, it really is in alignment with the things that I just talked about last month in that book. And I will be honest, at the time I was writing this book, this was an inspired thought. I truly wasn't understanding the whole connection of everything. Because I told you, I just got introduced to that book, the Psycho-Cybernetics, just last month, and while doing some research, by meditating, asking questions, and then, obviously when you ask things, the universe will supply. So I was asking about the subconscious mind and asking for more clarification, and that's when that book was introduced to me. And it was introduced by me watching someone else, right? And then I got introduced to the book, and it was actually the second time that I heard about this book, and I finally just jumped on it. Okay, but when I wrote my book, I'm noticing that my book is truly in alignment with all of this that I didn't truly understand when I was writing this. So again, there's nothing that's an accident. All right. So anyway, let me just kind of finish the meditation, and I'll give you the little synopsis of what we're talking about in the book right now. So the purpose of meditation again is to calm the mind and just to quiet it and to still your mind. And so with the practice of meditation, those thoughts will come in, particularly initially when you're just beginning your practice, you're still going to have those thoughts. And even in the 5-minute meditation, a lot of people have a hard time sitting still and quiet for 5 minutes. But if you just if you stick with it and just be patient with yourself, eventually your goal you will reach your goal. In other words, the goal is to still your mind. Because even with me, and I've been meditating for a while now, like I say, I would say it's been at least about 7 months that I've really truly been meditating. I pretty much, like I said, I've had prayer and I've actually dabbled in meditation, for several years now. But as far as like really practicing, like really working on my spirituality, I really got into meditation. And now I'm getting to a point where I'm actually, I'm manifesting the benefits of it because I'm more so able to control my thoughts. But that doesn't even mean for me, because like I said, it's been less than a year that I really concentrate on it. Even now, I still have meditation sessions where, thoughts are come in. And out of let's say, because I generally meditate at least 30 minutes twice a day, out of the 30 minutes, there may be some days that I have really calmed my mind, maybe just 5 of those 30 minutes. And it may not even be 5 straight minutes. It may just be little spurts where, I'm able to clear and I'm able to come into it. There's still days that I have that. So I don't want you to think that once you reach a point in your meditation, it's no longer going to have your thoughts, particularly when you're new. Now, obviously, once I become an advanced meditator or I get more control of my thoughts, then I'm assuming that I will reach that part. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the level of like a monk or anything like that, because they spend their days meditating. So obviously, they're experts at it, right? I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna get to that area because I don't want my thoughts to be there. But what I'm doing is I'm learning to control my thoughts, because I'm noticing that my thoughts, and I know that my thoughts really are powerful. Okay, so that's the portion of the transformation where we're doing meditation. Okay, so in our house, where we are in the house again is we're inside of the house. And what I would just explain to you was part of where we are in the book, because I want to kind of pause and really put some introspective in what I'm reading to you, okay? Because I don't want you just to, listen to me per se, just reading the book, because you can do that on your own. I want to kind of explain to you and put into perspective what I'm talking about inside of the house and what that really means, okay? So in the book, it asks you how do you start? And where you start is where you are now, it's about being self-aware. And believe it or not, a lot of us are not self-aware. And what does it mean to be self-awareness? Okay, self-awareness is about introspective. It's like going internal, and it's about tapping into your desires, to your wants, and to your emotions. And a lot of times we don't do that. We may tap into a little area, like for instance, we're more so nowadays because of life and the hustle and bustle of life. We also have the internet. We have all these images coming to mind of what should be, how you should be reacting, and so on and so forth. And so we're not introspective in terms of looking inside and trying to figure out what our desires. We get those from the external, which is, how's that working for you? It's not, isn't it? It really isn't. So I'm inviting you to go inside of your house, inside of you as a person, go introspective and figure out your internal wants, your internal desires, how you feel. And it's regardless of what's going on the outside. You have to come into the moment. That's what it means to be inside and also working where you are. And you will find where you are, because as you go introspective, it's about being grounded. It's about truly breathing and really getting in touch with who you are. And a lot of us don't take the time to do this. And I'll give you a personal example. So remember I told you I'm constantly working on myself. Well, that also requires me to work with coaches. So I work with other coaches as well. I work with energy coaches. I work with spiritual coaches. I work with different coaches as well. Okay, so yesterday I was talking with an energy coach, and so she was like, "Okay, Pia, I want you to ground yourself." And so I, took a deep breath, and because I'm familiar with all the terminology and everything, so I took a deep breath, and I thought I was grounded. And she says, "Pia, you're not grounded." And that was a surprise for me, because again, I'm thinking like I am grounded. I feel grounded. But remember, I told you she was an energy coach, so she could feel my energy. She could feel where I wasn't grounded. And she pinpointed exactly where my breath was coming from. She said, your breath is coming from, she said, I feel the breath stopping. I should say stopping, not coming from. The breath was actually, and my book doesn't go into this area right here, but I actually did. I actually have an academy, and my academy goes into more detail on this, and I'll talk about that a little later. But anyway, it talks. She was talking about my chakra, so she was saying your root chakra is that's where your breath stops. Okay, you're halting it in that area, and if you don't know about the root chakra is it's down by your pelvic bone. Okay, and again, I don't want to go into detail because that's beyond what we're talking. It's not beyond what we're talking about, but it's a little deeper. You know, it's that dive deeper. But I just kind of want to just give you like an example of how to ground yourself, in other words. So she was able to pinpoint exactly where my breath was stopping. And then once she pinpointed, I noticed exactly what she was talking about, because when I was breathing, I felt that. I was like, yeah, you're right. And so then she just kind of talked me through, you know, to release it. And I was able to then ground myself. Well, how many of us take the time to do that? How many of you take the time to actually sit in quiet, and not just meditation, but just sit in quiet and just get into touch with how you feel at this very moment? Okay, this is important if we're trying to affect change, if we're trying to affect transformation, because guess what? Self-awareness, because that's what grounding is. It's about being aware. Self-awareness is, I should say, transformation is impossible without self-awareness. You have to be aware of yourself and where you are at this moment, your desires, your feelings, all of that. You have to be aware of this, okay? Your feelings, your habits, you have to be aware of who you are. And that's what I'm talking about in the book where it says begin where you are. All right? So remember, the subtitle is the How to Find Your True Purpose and Live a Balanced Life. Well, by working on doing the transformation and working on this is going to help you live a balanced life, because you're going to find out that when you address all these areas in your life, you now have effect change, which of course is going to be the balance in your life. Now, unlike the rooms of a house, you know how you can like close the doors and just kind of block off those rooms and maybe not even go in it for times, a period of time. That's not true of those 5 areas in your life. You can't just close those off. Now, I'm not saying that you have to spend all of your moments or equal time in each of those areas, but you can't close a particular area off, because when you do that, then it's going to be neglection, right? And what happens when we neglect something? It's going to wreak its own little havoc in our life. And it may be something that's happening there where, in other words, when I ask you where you are right now, you could be like, Pia, I just lost my job, and I'm like, financially, I don't know how my bill's going to get paid. That's the area where I am right now, right? So you think that financially is the area that you need to focus on. But really, it could be one of those other areas. Like maybe I'm just kind of just throwing out at you, because again, it's really that emotional area that you've closed off. You closed off the rooms of that house and you've not visited that. Well, guess what? All of your areas of your house, all the areas of your life are all interconnected. So by closing off one area, it may appear or manifest itself to be a problem in another area. So you may think that you're in the living room having trouble, that formal living room. It may be a total disaster area. It may, all of a sudden you decide to remodel and there's all kind of junk going on in there, right? You may think it's that financial area, but really it's that emotional area that you closed off. And you find that if you open up that emotional area, then it cleans, and you work on that area and clean that area out. It manifests in financial to you, where then all of a sudden things start to turn around. Okay. So when it says where you are now, I don't want you to superficially say, because of what's going on the outside, I'm in my financial area, because that may not be the case. You need to ground yourself, become self-aware internally of where you are. And that's where you want to start. Okay. So I want to leave you with that today on the, about being self-awareness, because again, we're trying to affect balance. And in order to affect balance, we have to be able to address all the areas in our life. All right. So guys, let's move on to the second portion of the challenge. And this is going to be the yoga. All right. And I hear some movement in the house, so I have a feeling that my son at some point is going to have to vacate the home to go to school. And where my yoga is actually, remember, you're gonna have to go out the other way, okay? Sorry, I'm talking to my son. Give me a second. So I'm gonna be right here. Unless, how long is it gonna be since you leave, until you leave? When will you be leaving? Right now. Okay, like in 5 seconds or what? Okay, well, I'm about to be right by the door, so sorry guys. So my son is here and he's getting ready to go to school. And so what I was talking with, because where I do my yoga is like right here by the front door, and he needs to get out. So I told him, I said, okay, remember, if I'm doing my transformation, and I don't need you interrupting yoga to go outside of the door. I said, as long as I'm in my office, then it's okay. So let me go ahead and just kind of talk a little minute. And I apologize for going over on the time this morning, particularly now, because I have to kind of stall until he leaves out the front door. But so let's go back more into that self-awareness of where you are, because I know I left you at kind of like on the cliff, right? You're like, okay, Pia, you just talked about grounded, but then you just kind of left. Well, I was going to pick up on that tomorrow, but let me go ahead and talk about that now, because I need to stall some time here. Okay, I can keep this on. All right, so when we're talking about grounded, there's different ways to ground yourself, right? The favorite way for me, and the way I typically would work with my clients, would be by using your breath, because your breath really will help ground you. A lot of times when we're breathing, we breathe from our chest, right? Here's this air right here. Majority of our breath comes here, up and down, up and down. The breath comes here. Okay, well, that's not true breathing. And when I do yoga, there's actually a video that I did, and it's found on my YouTube channel, Pia McAdams. Just search for me, you'll find it. And look under how to do meditation with my name, obviously. Then I actually show you how to do ujjayi breaths, where you do that full diaphragmatic breathing. And the diaphragm is located down and toward your abdomen is toward your belly, right? And when you're doing the diaphragmatic breathing, when you're inhaling, the diaphragm is going to come all the way up. And as it does that, a lot of us try to hold in our abs in, right? But you have to let it go. So as the diaphragm comes up, your ab is going to actually extend out as the diaphragm moves its way behind the rib cage and up through the chest cavity, right? And then as it reaches up to the chest cavity, your chest is going to expand outward as well. And then when you exhale, the reverse happens. Your chest goes down, and then your abs go in. So actually, when you're doing true breathing, your belly is actually extending out, your chest is extending outward, and then when you're exhaling, it's coming inward. So I want you to practice that, particularly, not just when we're doing the meditation. That's the way you're really supposed to be breathing. A lot of us just breathe, again, just right here in our chest area. And you can hear it in people's voices, right? Like you can tell when I'm doing my diaphragmatic breathing, and you can also just tell when I'm just talking from my chest. All right? Corey, say hi. Wait, where are you? Because we're almost ready. Say hi. Look at this face. He's so happy to be on my he loves when I get him on camera. Anyway, have a good day, babe. All right, I should say boo because I call him. Okay, so anyway, full diaphragmatic breathing, that's a great way to get grounded. And then when you're doing your breathing, particularly when you're trying to ground yourself, when you're doing your breathing, I want you to become aware of every part of your body. Like just feel the muscles in your legs, feel the muscles in your arms, feel the muscles and feel your chest, feel your feet. You want to feel all parts of your body. So you're trying to ground yourself and become internal, become aware with who you are internally. Okay. So when I talk about grounding yourself and becoming self-awareness, it starts on the inside, and use your breath to do that. The full breathing, and this is going to take practice. Okay, but you can do it. All right. So let's go ahead and go on to the yoga portion. And again, we're going to be doing a 5-minute yoga routine, and I will go ahead and I will be walking you through this. We're going to actually start in child's pose, and we're going to start with 3 deep breaths. And yoga and meditation, just like everything else, this is a practice. So I invite you to join me and not just watch me. Okay. And by the way, guys, this is a great way to start your morning. I know this is the morning time for everyone. I know for a lot of you, this is your first time, you're getting up, and it's maybe like almost 9:30 now. So either you're approaching work or you're getting ready to go to work. We're on the West Coast where I am. This is 6:30 in the morning. So this is still pretty early, but even then you're just getting up. When it comes with transformation, I want you to understand this, because this is very, very important. When I'm talking about all this transformation that we're doing, the number one thing that I want you to keep in mind is that you are important. You have to spend some time for yourself. Don't worry about the outside world. Take care of yourself. It's as if you were traveling on an airplane and you hear the stewardess tell you that if the plane was to come down or have some type of air problems in the cabin, the mask will come down. And what do they tell you to do? They tell you to always put your mask on first, even before you do your child. Now, you met my son, Corey, or you saw him, you didn't meet him, you saw him. He is the basis of every single thing that I do. Every single thing that I do. I love this boy like no other. Like, he is definitely my life, you know, part of my life, because I'm an important part of my life, right? But I say that to say that I have to take care of myself first. Even though I love him to death, I have to take care of myself first. So you need to get that in your mind, that when we're talking about transformation, you have to take time for yourself and stop worrying about, oh, I got to do this, or I got to do this, and I got to do that and the other, or I got to do this for this person, that person, or the other person. What are you doing for yourself? And if you don't get anything else out of this 15 minutes of transforming life, I want you to get that. Because if you get that, you will get the other things. But if you don't get that, if you're still hustling, bustling, and worried about other people, you're not really tuned in to what I'm talking about. And I hope that makes sense, because you are important. You have to take time. And when I talk about the transformation, and I don't know if I said that this particular morning, but that is the premise also of the 5 minutes. Because a lot of times we think of transformation, we think, oh, this is a huge change and there's so much I got to do. I chose 5 minutes because I said it only takes 5 minutes. If you just address a little time in each of those areas, and 5 minutes is a little time. You can't take 5 minutes to stop and breathe for yourself. You can't take 5 minutes to go introspective for yourself. Even I said in 15 minutes, I didn't say it had to be 15 total minutes. You can take 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and 5 minutes somewhere else. Okay? Start off, but you have to address all 3 areas of life, and then you want to start off with little small increments. And you're going to find that if you do that, by starting small, it will then culminate to something larger. Okay? But take the time for yourself. Don't sit here and say, well, I can't do this because it's too early. Get up extra early. I do it. I get up at 5:30 every single morning. Oh, Pia, you're used to all that. Well, I wasn't. There was a time once where I typically was not a morning person. I told myself I wasn't a morning person. Yes, you're not a morning person. And then at one point, I decided I was going to be a morning person. And guess what? I became a morning person. So what I'm saying for you, don't think it doesn't apply to me. I live this as well. I get up early. Do you think you don't really know much about my life or so you're learning more about it, but I don't have a 9 to 5 job. I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. I told you I'm a college professor. I'm an adjunct, so I teach at different schools, but my classes are generally at night. So my days are structured around how I want to structure them. So I literally don't, like today is Tuesday, my first client, I don't see until 2 o'clock. And so from now until 2 o'clock, I have things to work on. Obviously, I have my own business, but what I'm saying is my own schedule. I don't have to get up 5:30 in the morning, but I know the benefits of getting up early and doing something for me, because this challenge that I'm doing for you, I'm also doing for me. I know the benefits of getting up early. Where does it start? Right here. Thinking, I am a morning person. Yes, you are a morning person. If you say, no, I'm not a morning person, you say, well, P, I already get up extra early because of my job. Then I understand that. But at some point, take some time for yourself. Just start off with 5-minute increments. If you say, okay, Pia, today you talk so long that you're going like a whole hour, that's more than 15 minutes. Break it up. Break it up. But just take a little time for yourself every single day. You are important. You are worthy. You're worth it, okay? And I want you to know that. Okay, moving on to the yoga. Practice with me. Okay, so we're going to start off in child's pose. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths. Forehead's down toward the mat, palms are facing up. On your next inhale, I want you to come up, extend those arms forward, and place them just below your shoulders. And then I want you to adjust your knees so that they're directly underneath your hips. So as you exhale, I want you to drop your chin down to your chest and round through your spine, tuck your pelvic under. And as you inhale, your head and chest comes forward. And as you exhale, round through the spine. Tuck your tailbone under. Press those armpits down toward the mat. And as you inhale, your head and chest comes forward. Again, exhale, round through the spine. Tuck the pelvic under. Drop your chin down to your chest. Press those armpits down toward the mat. And inhale, your head and chest comes forward. Arch through your back, tailbone sticks out. This time as you exhale, I want you to curl your toes under and go to downward facing dog. Now this is our downward facing dog for the morning, so I want you to get yourself comfortable. Start pedaling your legs and just get the feel of those hamstrings, just kind of stretching them out, making sure that you're pressing your armpits down toward the mat. You're pressing your chest toward your thighs and your knees. Come up on your toes and roll down to the balls of your feet all the way to your heels. Try to press them down toward the mat. Feel the nice stretch in those hamstrings and those calf muscles. Continue pedaling your legs, and remember, you're just doing what feels comfortable to you at this point. Now, on your next inhale, once you bring that left foot forward toward your fingertips, and take the arms up overhead and come into a high lunge. Now, in this high lunge, you're pressing your hips down. You're squaring your hips toward the front, and you're pressing your hips down toward the mat. Your arms are extended overhead, and your head is in alignment with your bicep. As you exhale, you're going to rotate that back foot so that the heel comes down. Your foot is at an angle, and you're going to rotate your body and extend those arms from side to side. And again, you're continuously pressing the hips down toward the mat. Your front knee is directly above your ankle, and you're extending nice and long from fingertip to fingertip. And you're looking over that left shoulder, and you're breathing 3 deep breaths. As you press those shoulder blades down and back. Nice, full ujjayi breaths, guys. None of those chest breaths. Breathing. Now, press that right hand, slide it down the back of your leg. Left hand comes up and over, and we're reversing the warrior. Sink down more into the pose. And as you exhale, you're going to rotate so that your left arm is just above the left knee. Right arm is going to come up and over. Again, pressing those hips down toward the mat. Your glaze is either up, your glaze could be forward, or your glaze could be down. On the next inhale, you're going to rotate your body, place those palms down, and as you exhale, take it back to downward facing dog. And again, pedal those legs. Maybe rock your body from side to side, the hips. Remember, you're just doing what feels comfortable for you. Coming up on those toes, stretching out, rolling down all the way through the balls of your heels. Balls your foot down to your heels. Pressing your chest toward your thighs and your knees. On the next inhale, you're going to bring that right foot forward toward your fingertips. And you're going to come up to a high lunge. Again, sink down into the stretch and breathe. On the next exhale, you're going to rotate this back foot, press the heel down, and extend the arms down to the side. And again, rotate your shoulders so that they're down and back. You're pressing your shoulder blades together, so squeeze your spine and get a nice long extension from fingertip to fingertip. 3 deep breaths here. This is your warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. And then you're going to reverse the warrior. Slide the hand down, the back leg. Opposite arm comes up and over. And on the exhale, swing the body forward. This time the right arm just above the right knee. And extend the left arm overhead. Press the shoulder blades down and away from the ears. And then as you inhale, go ahead and rotate over. Press the palms down. And go back to your downward facing dog. This time, I want you to walk your feet in toward your palms, keeping your knees bent so that your palms stay on the ground, and just kind of forward fold here. And then slowly lift up and round up, taking it one vertebrae at a time. Just kind of take your time and rotate your shoulders back. Take the arms overhead and a deep breath, inhaling. And as you exhale, dive the body forward. Placing your palms down, walking your feet out into a wide squat. And you're going to use your elbows to press out on those inner thighs. Bring those palms in together. Take a nice deep breath here. And as you exhale, just kind of bow your head down. And as you bow your head down, you're really putting some pressure on your elbows to open up your hips. And then slowly release it down. Go ahead and sit back. And then bring your body forward into a nice cross-legged position, where your arms are down by your side. Sit up nice and tall. Taking a deep breath, inhaling. Greet the palms together at the very top. Exhale down through the center. And namaste. Okay, so this brings us to the meditation portion. So you're already in a nice comfortable seated position, but for those of you that are seated in a chair, I want you to take your shoes off so that your feet are grounded to the floor. All right, so let's take some time right now to become self-aware. Just kind of notice where you are right now, your muscles, your body, any tension areas, tight areas in your body. Taking a nice deep breath, inhaling through your nose, and exhale through your mouth. Now go ahead and just close your eyes. And again, just kind of notice where you are internally. Notice any tight areas that you may feel, any tightness in any of the joints, any pains. And don't make any judgment, just kind of notice them. Again, taking a nice deep breath, inhaling through your nose. And exhaling through your mouth. Let's do that again. This time really focus on that ujjayi breath so that your belly is going to expand out. As you inhale, your chest is going to rise. So inhale up. And exhale through your mouth, nice and slow. Let the diaphragm return to its original position, but let it take its time getting there. Now continue breathing. Let's start off with our feet. Go ahead and squeeze your feet. Go ahead and squeeze those toes and just ball them up really, really tight. Just hold it. This is on your inhale. Just kind of hold it. And then exhale, release. All the tension goes out of your feet. Just wiggle your toes. Get aware of your feet. We use our feet every single day as we're walking around. They're being taxed. So again, it's very important to understand and just be aware of when it's tight and then when you're loose. Okay, so just continue wiggling your toes. And you're continuously breathing, inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. Now on the next inhale, let's go ahead and move up the legs. And I want you to tighten those thigh muscles. Tighten them really, really tight. If you're seated where your legs are together, just really squeeze those thighs together. If you're seated in a cross-legged, just imagine that you're squeezing those thighs together. And just kind of hold it, like hold those muscles nice and tight. Hold it. And then release. Now notice when you release the muscles in the thighs, the remaining muscles in your legs also release. You even feel the tension go out through your feet. Continue breathing, because remember, we're all connected internally as well. All the muscles in your body. Continue breathing. Now let's move up to our gluteals. So I want you to, on the next inhale, just squeeze your buttocks really, really tight. Like just imagine those sit bones just coming in together. Just squeeze it and hold it. Just hold all that tension and stress into those muscles. Squeeze it. And then release. Doesn't it just feel good to just release the tension in your body? And you feel the interconnectedness of those muscles. The muscles in your legs as you release the buttocks. Also the muscles in your lower back are also released. Did you notice that? The muscles in your hips, the joints in your hips. Everything is released and it goes out. Alright, so the next one, I want you to squeeze your belly button. Squeeze it in toward your spine. Like just focus on getting that belly button all the way back to your spine. Just kind of hold it, hold it, hold it. And release. Whew. A lot of times, particularly if we're exercising, we're taught to hold our abs in nice and tight, right? But we get used to that tightness feeling. But this one, you're going beyond that. And you're really holding, squeezing, and now you're just releasing it. Doesn't it feel good to just let go? Alright, so with a soft hand, go ahead and ball your fists up, and I want you to squeeze your arms and your biceps. Bring them up toward your shoulders. I want you to feel all the tension in your arms. You even feel the tension across your chest and into your shoulders. Just kind of squeeze it, and hold it. And then release it. Just let the fingers go. Release the arms. Lengthen them out nice and long. Just melting the tension all the way from your body. Now moving on to the shoulders. I want you to squeeze those shoulders. Bring them all the way up to your ears. It doesn't take much. A lot of times we carry our stress on our shoulders. I really want you to imagine the stresses and the tension in the shoulders. Like really see that internally. Squeeze it and hold it nice and tight. And then release. Just let all the tension and stress just melt away from your shoulders. And notice when you do that, how your neck feels elongated, it's lengthened out as your shoulders remove or return back to the original position. It's also releasing, relaxing in your chest and in your upper back. Again, all of our muscles are interconnected. Now let's go ahead and clench our jaws really, really tight. And while we're at it, go ahead and squeeze your eyeballs together, squinch your nose, and just get all the tension that you can muster into your face. And just hold it. Hold it. And release. Releasing all the tension and stress out of all parts of your body. Just kind of let it melt away. Go ahead and take a nice deep breath. Inhale through your nose. And exhale through your mouth. Again, deep breath. Inhaling through your nose. And exhale into your mouth. One more time, a deep breath, inhaling through your nose, nice Ujjayi breath. And exhale through your mouth. Okay, release, relax, return refreshed. And you've done something good for yourself today. All right, so that concludes today's transformation of the Transform Your Life in 15 Minutes. I want to thank you for joining me. I want you to know that today's word is balance. I want you to focus on balance. And remember that requires you becoming self-aware. And self-aware is being present of where you are internally, all of you internally at any given moment. So right now at this very moment. Okay, so at this very moment, try to stay self-aware because we're going toward balance and alignment in our life. All right, I will see you tomorrow at the same time. You guys have a great self-aware and balanced day. Bye.